Previously on the history of Al-Andalus. The Al-Murabitun were a Berber Bedouin people from the deserts of the Sahara. In fact, the type of Berber that they were Sanhaja Berbers, so they were further south in modern-day Morocco, heading towards the country which is now known as Western Sahara. And when the Umayyads first conquered North Africa, they concentrated mainly on the coastal parts along the Mediterranean. So the inner areas of North Africa, further down into the Sahara, were neglected. So these people were superficially Islamic at this point in time. There was a scholar called Abdullah ibn Yasin who brought it upon himself to teach these people the true tenets of the faith and to get them practicing the faith as it should be. And the way that this was, he traveled around many tribes until he found one tribal leader who would accept to patronize him, and from then on the Sanhaja Berbers became fully Islamicized and adopted the faith, and then started to spread their message to the other Berbers in the region, and even created a mini Islamic empire in North and West Africa. Towards the end of the 11th century, the Al-Murabitun were led by a man called Yusuf ibn Tashfin. And Yusuf ibn Tashfin is a hero in the Muslim world, who many people have not heard about. And it was he who heard the cry of the Muslims in 1086, and he decided at the age of 80 years of age to take an army across the Straits of Gibraltar and to help these weak Taifa states against the strongest states which are now emerging in the north. The word Al-Murabitun means the people of the Rabat, or the people on the frontier, and the people who are bound together. And the Al-Murabitun were a group of people who were bound together very strongly by this idea of Islam, and were ready on the frontiers to take the boundaries of Islam further and further. So when they entered Al-Andalus in the year 1087, they rushed to the help of the Taifa of Seville, and they, together with the Taifa of Seville, they fought a famous battle called the Battle of Sagrahas, also known in Arabic as Az-Zallaqa, because apparently it was a slippy place, and they defeated Alfonso of Leon Castile at this battle. After that, Yusuf ibn Tashfin, having done his duty and helped the Muslims, he went back to Morocco, or modern-day Morocco, and he got a call again the year later to come back in the year 1089 in order to help them again, because the Taifa states were having problems with the Christian states in the north again. So he came, he helped, and then he left. And then a year later he got another call, come help us out again. So he thought to himself, this time these Taifa states, they're weak, they're corrupt, and they're useless. So he decided that he wasn't just going to come and help them, he was going to come and take over and rule them. ibn Tashfin was a very selfless man, and as he'd rushed to the help of the Muslims and put his own life in danger to save them and gone back to his homeland on a number of occasions, he only came to rule the Muslims in Al-Andalus for their own benefit and to strengthen their own state. Now, at this point, once he'd united all of Al-Andalus and huge parts of Africa, his empire would stretch 3,000 kilometers from north to south, and arguably he could now proclaim to be the most powerful or the most influential Muslim ruler in the world, and therefore declare himself the Khalifa, like the Umayyads had done before in Al-Andalus. However, that wasn't the personality of Yusuf ibn Tashfin. At the time, the Khalifa of the Muslim world was in Baghdad, and he was from the Abbasid royal family. And the title that the Khalifa would have would be Amir al-Mu'mineen, or Prince of the Believers. Yusuf ibn Tashfin decided to have good relations with the Abbasid Khalifa in Baghdad, and instead of adopting the title Amir al-Mu'mineen, a new title was given to him, Amir al-Muslimin, Prince of the Muslims. Having died at the age of 100, Yusuf ibn Tashfin was succeeded in ruling Al-Andalus by his son, who was called Ali ibn Yusuf. And by this time, all the former parts of Al-Andalus had been united under Al-Murabitun rule. Ali ibn Yusuf then tried to further expand into the north, and hence he tried to besiege Toledo, and eventually he would try and besiege Madrid and take it back again for the Muslims. This is where we now see the weakness of Al-Murabitun, because in a pitched battle on the battlefield they were brilliant, but when it came to siege warfare they weren't good at all. So in 1109 they arrived here in Madrid and encamped in this place, which is called Campo del Moro, in an attempt to take back Madrid for the Muslims. Unfortunately, it was a failure and they weren't able to do it. Al-Murabitun were, of course, Muslim, and the people who were living in Al-Andalus, Muslim Iberia, at least 80% of them were Muslim as well. So you would think everything would be fine. Not quite. You see, the people who were living in Al-Andalus, the Iberian Muslims, they were used to the finer things in life. Sometimes they'd be very lax, whereas Al-Murabitun were the people from the desert. They were used to a tough life, and these finer things in life they weren't interested in at all. So Al-Murabitun found it very difficult to rule the Muslims in the Iberian Peninsula, and so there were lots of problems. However, there was lots of problems on the horizon for the Murabitun elsewhere. Behind me is the main cathedral in Toledo, the Catedral Primada, and this cathedral used to be the site of the main mosque in Toledo, the Friday Mosque, until it was demolished, and in its place this massive cathedral was built. And that brings me to the next character in the story, who is a man called Rodrigo Diaz de Vivar, and he was a Catholic knight who fought to get rid of the Moors from Spain. And if you believe that, you'll believe anything. El-Cid was originally a Catholic knight from the Kingdom of Castile, and he was sent by the King of Castile to the ruler of the Taifa of Seville in the south to extract tribute from him and bring it back to the land of Castile. However, when he went down and extracted the tribute, he didn't come back to the King of Castile with it, he kept it for himself. In the year 1081, El-Cid would enter the service of the Muslim ruler of the Taifa of Zaragoza, and in the year 1082 he would fight for them against the Christian kingdom in Barcelona and defeat them. And then in the year 1084 he would fight again for the the Taifa of Zaragoza against the kingdom of Aragon and defeat them. And it was because of these victories over Christian kingdoms fighting for Muslims that he got the title El-Cid. And El-Cid comes from the Arabic word Al-Sayyid, which means either master, and it can also mean a descendant of the Prophet. So the Muslims held El-Cid in very high regard for what he'd done for the Muslims against some of these Christian kingdoms in the north. As a result of what he'd done in terms of fighting for Muslim Taifa states against Christian states, El-Cid was exiled from the Kingdom of Castile, and it was only until 1087 when King Alfonso of Castile lost the Battle of Zagrajas, the Battle of Zalaqa, if you remember, against the Al-Murabitun, that he decided he couldn't do without this chap El-Cid, so he brought El-Cid back into his service again. However, as El-Cid was up to his old tricks and he was naughty, so he was exiled later on once again. But this time, El-Cid would be fighting for himself, not for Muslims, not for Christians, and he would actually set up his own mini-state in Valencia, and that would remain for a number of years until the Al-Murabitun besieged the city, and he died during the siege. And a few years later, Yusuf ibn Tashafin was able to take the city of Valencia and incorporate it into Al-Murabitun, Al-Andalus. Just as this building behind me, which is outwardly a Christian building, it does have a history of Islam in there as well, much like the story of El-Cid. The story is told in Spain today in a certain way, which completely disregards the role that he played for certain Muslim Taifa states. He was a Christian, but he also had a Muslim history as well.